S&P Energy on pace for its worst day in a month, but BMO Capital Markets is bullish on oil and gas, saying the group remains undervalued. And Sarat, you're dipping your toe in?
Very small toe. I have been underweight for the last 5 years.
Your pinky toe's going in.
Pinky toe's in. I do think, and we've talked about this, I think there's a floor to oil now and gas, where at least on the oil side, we were looking at 30, 35. If that's going to be more like 45, 50. So some of the E&P guys, especially in the U.S., like the Apaches, the EOGs of the world, again, very small positions to start. It's easily you can get burnt on these, especially if oil goes down. But if oil goes down, a lot of other things then work even better. But I think these are good high-quality companies to start positions with.
How should we think about investing? Because this note specifically says to increase exposure to North American oil and gas versus other oil and gas companies who may have more exposure to Brent versus WTI, Joe. Is this a call on a stronger WTI backdrop, stronger U.S. economic growth backdrop?
I would say yes to all, and I would say yes to continuing to have exposure to energy. I think that the paper asset demand for it in the last couple of years has been so significantly depressed that so many came into this year really underinvested in the energy space itself. And I think you're beginning to see the alignment of fundamentals being married with the paper asset demand finally after years of not having it.
Paper asset demand?
So paper asset demand just basically means on the speculative side when you're designing portfolios, just basically allocating towards it. And that really kind of is different from a fundamental rise higher. You have different reasons varying from inflation expectations to whatever the case may be, believing that the downside is over in energy. And I think that's the environment so far in 2018. I also would say that the appearance to me is that once again, you have a cartel. And generally, when you have that cartel, I think the downside is somewhat limited. There seems to be this coordination between the Saudis and the Russians, the Chinese, and maybe it all surrounds the Saudi Aramco IPO. I'm not necessarily sure, but the conspiracy theorists would believe that that's the case. And I think the Iranians in this scenario are probably the losers.
So, I've seen, let me address the point. When you're talking about the paper, man, that's my issue always with the sector, is that there's so much speculation here that everybody thinks they're an energy expert. I'm not talking about the desk, but everybody. And there's so much leverage that you can play in these groups. And I've seen some of the best energy investors allegedly, like Andy Hall, right?
Right.
How to fold up. So if they can't get it right with their pipeline, pardon the pun, into direct sources in the Middle East, how do you get it right otherwise? So it's going to have its time in the sun, a rotation like we're seeing now. I do believe that you've got the bottom end of the pricing is okay and firm. It's a question of how far up it goes and when they turn the spigot on. Don't forget that they turned it off. So they're going to turn it on again because private equity wants to get paid.
Right. In terms of the argument that investors overall are underweight to energy, and that will be another factor to push the sector higher. Do you buy that, Dr. J? I mean, we're talking about rotations within the markets, right, to value from growth. So you take money out of technology. Why not energy?
They could certainly look at a lot of these stocks. And again, to the contra to it, the opposite move in the airline stocks. Obviously, they move inversely. So I thought that I'd picked bottoms many times for the airline stocks, and then I got what bottom pickers get, stinky fingers. But I think you're going to see more positive moves out of the energy space because of the OPEC move not being as large as people thought.
All right. On that note, these guys are holding it in because once you said stinky fingers.
That's what bottom pickers get.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.